Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire. Before we get started, let me say Ramadan Mubarak. In advance, I'm hoping that everybody has a successful fast. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm here today to talk about the Islamic City 30-day challenge to love Allah more. What does that mean, Preacher? It means that we're all going to talk about the different ways that we can love Allah more, that we can dedicate ourselves and devote ourselves to the Most High, and in this special time of the year, Ramadan, get closer to our Lord. Now, the way I'm going to love Allah more, brothers and sisters, is I'm going to focus on correctness. Self-correctness, emotional correctness, spiritual correctness. Because I believe in this way I get closer to my Lord because I'm a lot more humble and a lot more open to His mercy and His wisdom. This was a big thing for me when I became Muslim, about self-correction, especially growing up in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, hearing all the noise about what I was supposed to be as a young black man, as a young black boy. And I found this calm, if you will. This calm that was passed down for me, from my relatives, my mom, my dad, all my relatives. It was that whole idea that we could self-correct ourselves. And I found this peace in the religion of Al-Islam. Now, you can't do what I'm going to do. I mean, don't copycat. Make your own video. I already said I'm going to love Allah more because I'm going to focus on self-correction. You have an opportunity to make your own video and talk about how you are going to love Allah more. That's right. So what are you standing there for? You got a limited amount of time. Ramadan is starting in like 15 minutes. I believe that you should get out and try to figure out how you're going to love Allah more. Make a video, 2 to 3 minutes. Join the challenge for Islamic City to love Allah more. I'm Preacher Moss. In advance, Ramadan Mubarak, and I'll be seeing you throughout this 30 days. Take care. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire. Before we get started, let me say Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. Ramadan Mubarak. I hope everybody's having a good Sunday, man. I am having an amazing Sunday working on a project that you just saw, which is 30-day challenge to love Allah more. And I would say not even Allah. But love God more. Love your God more. What are you willing to please that God and incur their favor? You know, not incur their wrath, but incur their favor. So I thought it was it's been a great campaign. I want to give a shout out to some of my subjects, Sister Miriam, Sister Yasmin, Sister Halima, Brother Jawad, Brother Isam. We just had a lot of people come on, Brother Chris, and we're going to have more people come on and talk about this whole process. It's going to be a great campaign. It's off to a great start. Shout out to my main man, Aleem, who's been doing the editing and the rendering of the videos. This is really, really good. I'm happy for Islamic City. If you've not gone to IslamicCity.org, you need to go there and check out some of their resources, their learning management systems, which can actually help you, help you engage and evolve your faith. Some of the things you may know, some of the things you want to know. They have everything on Hadith, they have everything on Quran, they have everything on Sirah, and they have a lot of articles and I want to say some of the roundtable discussions of very prominent scholars here in the United States and outside of the United States. So you definitely want to go check them out. So my piece today is really, really interesting because today, this 4th day of Ramadan, I decided to move away from Jews number 4 for a little bit and really wanted to talk to you about some of the things we go through with Ramadan being here in the aspect that Shaitan is locked up for 30 days and you really, really get an opportunity to work on yourself. I really think it's important to have a discussion about real-time habits, about some of the habits that we have, some of the habits that we hold. And what I mean about that is that we have an opportunity, if you will, to assess. You know, one of the things people think about when they think of a habit, they automatically think oftentimes that it's a bad habit. Sometimes it's not a bad habit, it's just not a convenient habit. So before I get started on that piece, I'm going to start the show. I'm going to count down. I'm going to get our shout out show family, give them some love and some shine. I see people already in the space. Don't you move. Shout out to Sister Satana, who is doing a video piloting a baby shower. We hope that it is successful. The sister wanted to come in today and say, you know what? Hey, you are doing something that are going to make people happy. Please focus and go do that. I will take care of the shout out show. So I'm flying solo today. But I also want to give a shout out to Sister Satana because all the other times she's been here, her benchmark on this show is clear. Her fingerprints on the show are undeniable. So shout out Sister Satana doing the baby shower. So listen, we got a great show lined up for you today. So don't you move. We'll be right back. This is Preacher Miles on the SOS talking about breaking habits. All right, sorry about that, people. Got to take it off the loop. That's why you need Satana. Satana says take it off the loop. I did not, so that is my fault. So listen, before we get started, let me give out some recognition stars in the building. Of course, they're the Shout Out Show family. This show does not happen without them, and the show does happen with them. I think that's very important. We give a shout out to Sister Ree, really the matriarch of the Shout Out Show. How you doing, Sister Ree? Glad you are here. I hope you're feeling well. You know, we sent out prayers and du'as to you yesterday. Thank you for texting me back. Like I said, I just want to make sure you're doing all right. Shout out to Sister Rabina who reached out to me. I needed to get that information about the book that you talked about for Ramadan. I'll get that posted tomorrow, brother. This is totally slipped my mind. Just want to make sure you're doing all right. Shout out to you. Peace and blessings on your family, Brother Derek, Brother Jawan. Hope everybody's doing well in that space. You know, we appreciate you. We love you on the Shout Out Show. And my main man, Big Brother Bilal Salahuddin. What's going on, beloved? Nice to see you in the place. So I'm saying Bilal Salahuddin, but I have to make a special notation. I have to specify that there's also Sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin, our dear sister. Hope that she is doing well. And you give her my salams, man. Peace and blessings to you and the family. I see you doing that work, brother. I'm going to have you over to the house and put some work in for me one of these days, man. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And the grandkids listening. Sister Reese said, hello, family. We're going to put that up. And Sister, how many grandkids do you have, though, brother? You got a lot of grandkids, Doc. I'm not even going to gander. I just want to know how many grandkids that you have. Let us know. What's the show that my main man, Altaf Rashid, our Canadian envoy from Toronto, brothers and sisters, the Canadian envoy to the Shout Out Show. He is here without fail. Man, I appreciate it. You know, if I ever get a big show, I'm taking all of y'all with me. The first 10 shows, I'm going to put everybody up in hotels. We're going to watch the show and laugh about stuff we used to do on the Shout Out Show. I appreciate all of you. I want to give a shout out to Brother JT. Well, again, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And for everybody watching, again, Ramadan Mubarak. I know you're in the midst of your fast. So please hang tight with your fast. Alhamdulillah, I didn't come into the fast feeling strong. I was dealing with some illness, but alhamdulillah, I am feeling better now. Shout out to Sister Rabina. She said, you look a little frail on the show. All right, sister, that's okay. But I'm doing better. I'm feeling better. All praises is due. So let me get into our discussion today, and feel free to jump in. During Ramadan, we talk about working on ourselves. Oftentimes, we talk about that we're denying things that are permissible to us, that we are trying to sharpen our ibadah, that we're trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're trying to get closer to His book, and all of those things. And the overall reach or the overall summation of this is that we're trying to work on our character. And what that means, brothers and sisters, is that there is an assessment that has to happen when you're trying to work on your character. And the assessment means that you have to look at things that are pro and con against your character. What I'm talking about in this space is you have to begin to understand or ask yourself, what are my habits? What are my routines that are good for me, that are bad for me, that are questionable, that can be improved, and those that can be eliminated? You know, breaking habits is it's a tough discussion for some folks because we have comfort things. You know, I was watching the documentary on Reggie Jackson on Amazon Prime. Bilal Altaf Reed, check out that Check out that documentary on Reggie Jackson. It's amazing so far. Shout out to Mark Kennedy for turning me on to it. Baseball players have rituals. They have rituals that they go through. They go up the bat. They do this and do that, and then pick up the bat and swing. We have that in our own nature. When we hold on to habits, we are looking at things that give us a certain type of consistency, number one, but also gives us a certain type of result. And so we hold to these patterns. Nothing wrong with that. But even sometimes when we have these patterns they may not even be necessarily negative. They may even be good, but sometimes, as we talk about Ramadan, there's always the space and capacity for improvement. When I say the space and capacity for improvement, I am not saying that something is not working. I am saying that in juxtaposition to another system, it could be working better. I'm not saying you have to trash the system. I'm saying there's some aspects, nuances, the minutiae that you may be able to do to change it. It's the same thing with a good habit, but it's also the same thing with a bad habit. People think that you eliminate bad habits by not doing it. Well, yes, but it involves a bit of logic that you can't overlook. When I say the bit of logic that you can't overlook, what I'm saying is you have to assess the whole character. You have to assess your whole character, your whole, I want to say, standard operating procedure for how you do things, for how you live your life, for how you engage, how you earn your money, how you practice your religion. These things are very, very important because sometimes when we say I'm going to drop a habit, we don't have the thing that's supposed to replace it. If you know what I'm saying. Like we strip this thing. Like sometimes people have smoked for a long time. Back in the day, you got to quit smoking. People try to quit smoking. They had the patch, they had the nicotine cigarettes. And the idea of the nicotine cigarettes was that you would wean people off of nicotine addiction, that you would wean them. Because there's some people that just quit right away and then they pick up another habit that may not even be healthy or maybe a worse habit, if you will. I'm a big guy about jazz musicians. Jazz musicians are incredibly creative. They're incredibly improvisational. I love them, but they are creatures of habit. And one of the things that ran through the times of some of my favorite jazz musicians is that heroin use is a big deal. That people, some of my favorite artists, Coltrane, Miles, Bird, they use heroin in abundance. They were functional addicts back then. And one thing that I remember, it was two cases. It was Miles Davis, who realized that he had a problem, that he was a junkie, and he went and he kicked it cold turkey. Everybody's case is not like Miles Davis. Everybody doesn't have that boxer discipline. But I also remember the case of Charlie Bird Parker, who quit. He quit doing heroin, but he substituted it with a habit for alcohol. So people go, what did he die? He didn't die of heroin addiction. He died of alcoholism. My point, brothers and sisters, is that it requires balance. And if you're going to move into a situation or scenario where you're trying to readily address habits, good and bad, you can't do it without the absence, and you can't do it and have an absence of balance. Meaning that if you're going to do this, it means to have, like for me, and maybe for a lot of people, but for me, when I was a young Muslim, getting up in the morning, praying was a totally different thing. Never done it in my life. All of a sudden, I have to get up and pray. And I'm not talking about praying at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking about substantial time, 5 in the morning, sometimes before 5 in the morning. It's like you're getting up to do this. And it took a year, and a good friend of mine said to me, what happens is you're trying to impose a habit, which is prayer. He said, but you don't have anything to balance it. And so what he came up with was, you're a little thick around the middle. I was at the time. He said, man, why don't you incorporate that prayer time with going to exercise? And what happened was I was out of shape. But what happened was I would pray and it'd be in close juxtaposition with the time I would go run. I wasn't running early, but now I had a reason to go run early. So the new habit brought in another habit that both of them were good. Case in point, we all have the opportunity to do this. None of us is arrived from being able to replace a habit, but also this is the thing that's important about Ramadan. While we're working on ourselves and we're trying to, in some regards, break habits, we're trying to build good habits, we're trying to eliminate some bad habits. Sometimes we have to step out of ourselves and look at our community and understand that We are connected by many ways by habits that you, in this case, you not doing this thing could effectively affect somebody else, and they may not do this thing. When you go to Hajj, what is Hajj? Hajj is ritual. But Hajj is about specific habits. Think about this. If there weren't habits to making tawaf, making circles around the Kaaba, think about this. People could get killed. People could get killed. If there weren't a defined list of habits that you had to have coming into making Hajj, people could get killed. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people could get killed. They could be trampled. So my point is, it's also important that you gauge your habits around your environment. Sometimes your habits are going to be in direct contradiction to the things that you see around you, and that's not a bad thing. Because I have to say this. I have to say this, that a lot of times when there were people who stood out because of their habits, particularly good habits, and we might have mocked them, we might have ridiculed them, and so on and so forth. Ironically, you would come around to those habits. There was a time when people talked about Muhammad Ali, and I'm old enough to remember when my grandmother thought he was crazy and da 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 da, and his name is Cassius and da da da. But I lived long enough, and she lived long enough to see that his habits brought him around to a space where she admired his habits. She admired that he didn't drink. She admired that he didn't do drugs. And this is funny because my two aunts, I'd say no, all of my aunts on my father's side and my uncle never drank, never did drugs. Never drank, never did drugs. Now my dad drank Budweiser. That's the deal. And my granddaddy loved the Budweiser, but he quit it after a while. But my point is, they recognized the habits in Muhammad Ali and said, whoa, wait, I'm so busy talking about this man and not understand what it is. I'm overlooking the fact that I'm practicing the same good habits too. So listen, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about, again, habits. Start thinking about that a little bit. Bilal is there with his grandkids. Bilal, you never told me how many grandkids you have, but it's okay. But he's there, and the thing that he's modeling for his kids, I guarantee that he's modeling good habits. And we all need to be in that space. So let Ramadan for Muslims be a time where you do an inventory of your habits. For non-Muslims, let every day be an opportunity that you do an inventory of your habits. Because in the end, everybody's going to have to stand on their own 2 feet on their judgment. And you're going to talk about what your good deeds were, but your good deeds are a reflection of good habits. Don't move. We'll be right back here on the ShOUT Show.
We just need help.
Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Muslim Family Service at your command. The people who help people have to say, we need your donations, don't delay. We all have struggles from time to time, but leaders dedicated is what you find. Before another person sheds a tear, support Olive Branch, you don't have to fear. Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Action you can see, compassion you can feel. Sing it with me. Ooh. Ooh.
We just need help.
Ooh. Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Muslim Family Service at your command.
All right, sorry about that. Talking about habits, bad habits. I keep leaving that loop on. But forgive me, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to do it all today, and you know what? This is on me. I had time to set the studio up. I set it up, but I should have done a run through so that when you saw the ShOUT show, it's running to the best of its efficiency that it could. All right. So let me give you a couple more minutes on habits, and I'm going to give you the wrap. The reason why habits are important to me, and this is in my own opinion, is because habits are the things that protect us against poor manners. Let me say it again. Habits are the things that protect us against poor manners. And what I mean is, when we face poor manners or poor behavior, that we have a foundational base to understand While that may be the situation in this environment, this is not the situation of my character. Case in point, oftentimes when I go do stand up back in the day, I would have to go to bars. And, the comedy club, let's be honest, the comedy is not there for the comedy. The comedy is there to sell liquor. That's what it is. You are there to sell drinks. The funny you are is really based upon how much liquor you're going to sell. It's not till you get to Hollywood and you're talking about tickets and pay-per-view and stuff like that. But in the clubs, you're there to sell liquor, and that's what you do. I realized this at a point in time in my career, and I was conflicted because I was like, I don't want to be in a space where I am actively, well, directly, but really indirectly promoting alcohol sales. And I went through a couple iterations with club owners. I got fired a couple of times. And then one club owner in Milwaukee, Comedy Cafe, his name is JD, Jonathan Davis. May Allah be pleased with me, passed away about a year ago. But JD asked the question. He goes, well, why are you here in this club if you don't want to sell alcohol? You're a Muslim. Why are you here? And I said, and I started to say, this is how I become a comedian. And then I stopped. I said, well, no, this is further evidence of me trying to build character. And he asked me to explain. And the way I explained it was, if I'm in this space, whether you like it or not, and I'm on stage and I'm telling jokes and I'm not using profanity and I am not with a drink in my hand, if you see a Coca-Cola, it's a Coca-Cola. You see a cranberry, it's a cranberry. I said, you have to realize that everybody that comes into the comedy club is not coming here to drink. They're coming here to socialize and have a good time. But alcohol is not necessarily a part of it. And he agreed. I said, if you think about it, you're going to have nights where people come here and no alcohol is sold. But the thing that's going to be the social glue is the stuff that's on the stage. And lo and behold, maybe about a year or two later, he started having comedy nights that was specifically geared for people who are a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, of course, Alcoholics Anonymous people, they didn't want any alcohol. They would cover the alcohol up and they come up with a menu of alcohol-free drinks and things like that. And I asked JD after that, I said, it's pretty funny. I said, why did you change? Why did you change? And he said, because I had to look at the fact that these people had money too. And I said, no, you changed because you recognize that these people had some value that was reflected in their character that pushed you to the point and go, well, let me just honor the character. Even if it means I'm just taking their money. Let me honor the character. And I'm like, that's what it is. Each and every one of us has to understand that character works as an example. The things that you hear from me, the things you see from me, jokes, comedy, whatever, production, that hustle is a part of habit. Getting up in the morning at a particular time in the morning, early, whatever, that's part of habit. That hustle is part of the habit. When you do certain things or you carry certain things, you don't want to be seen as sloppy and things like that. And that was the attraction to a lot of things. When I was a young man going to church, I liked Sundays because Sunday meant that you did your Sunday best. You put on your Sunday best. And it's like, okay, we're going to a house of worship. It made that house of worship, whether it was First Baptist Church of Glen Arden or Shiloh Baptist Church or Shiloh in Danville, Virginia, that people put on their best because they thought that they were a part of an incredible opportunity to be in front of their Lord. And I loved it. Now, what I have to admit here, though, is in many regards, habits have been replaced by examples of bad habits. Not to bash social media, not to bash current media, social, cultural things, but in a lot of it, because it's not original and it's countercultural, meaning that people are trying to take things that are foundationally cultural that have been around for years and flip it into something else. It creates a weak society. It creates weak examples. And if you have enough weak examples, that becomes the clutter in the marketplace. So you don't see good examples. You don't see good habits. I play basketball, right? I've been around basketball players for a long time. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I went to college. I didn't play in college. I went to tennis. I played tennis in college. That's what I did. But I know how to look at talent and go, that's a person that has some good talent. That person knows how to shoot. Da 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 da. You know, when Steph Curry started shooting these long range bombs, and I love Steph Curry, but people don't understand that Steph Curry can shoot these long range bombs and these threes because his game is developed on fundamentals. When you have the fundamentals, when you have good working habits as a basketball player, you can do very, very creative things. Unfortunately, a lot of people look at Steph Curry and believe that they have Steph Curry habits without having Steph Curry ethics. And as a result, basketball is hard to watch now because so many people are not fundamentally sound. They are horrible. There are pros, people getting paid millions of dollars in the pros who are horrible. That they should be making money, and the only reason they're getting money is because they're big and tall and they have no skills and they have no work ethic. Where does that come from? It comes from the course of what are your habits? So I'm sounding a little redundant. And the reason I'm sounding redundant because guess what a habit is? It is a practice of redundancy, positive redundancy. We do it over and over and over and over and over again. I went to military school. When we marched and we drilled, if it wasn't correct, you went back, you did it over and over and over and over again. My mom, when I did homework and it wasn't correct, my penmanship wasn't good, I went back and I did it over and over. Now, I'm not talking about correcting what the problems are. No, you would start over and then embedded in my mind that you want to get it right the first time. Same thing with my father, get it right the first time. And being able to get it right the first time ties into the fact that you had good habits, that you look through your own work to make sure that the consistency was there. A lot of people don't do that. So I'm just bringing up these points because during this time of Ramadan, let's start working on our habits. Our bad habits, let's improve. If they're really, really bad habits, let's eliminate them. If they're questionable habits or suspect habits, this is what you should be doing. You should be assessing, is it good or bad? Is it something that I can improve? And that in this improvement process, it has some value down the road. And good habits, well, if it's a good habit, then you have an opportunity to make it a great habit. So that's where I am with this talk today about, you know what, let's talk about, again, breaking habits. To recap, a habit doesn't have to be necessarily bad. You can have a good habit. Breaking a good habit to make it a great habit is not a bad thing. Breaking a bad habit means either you're going to eliminate it or you're going to work so it has some value and begin the process of imbuing or building out your character. Everybody has the opportunity to do it. This is not a religious talk, brothers and sisters. This is a human being talk. This is a self-credibility talk. This is a talk about self-actualization. And if we're going to do that and be honest, I think if we look at it in the juxtaposition of the people around us and our network and our environments, we're going to be all right. All right, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You have to really be here to see and feel and understand what a race against time means. In every direction, there are groups of people working through the search and rescue operations. In that direction, there's a live search and rescue going on. The family members are sat by a fire. They've been saved. Underneath rubble is their loved ones. They're eagerly waiting to find out. You see everywhere around us, in each direction we look, there's destruction. There is consideration that this area, No Dege, will be completely destroyed because all of the buildings require a complete knockdown and start again because they're no longer safe. This has a population of 50,000 people and the urgent support is needed to help shelter them, provide them with vital life-saving assistance. We're doing what we have to. We're working around the clock and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease the suffering and to open our hearts, and we're asking you, please, brothers and sisters, give generously to help us support those who are most in need.